I'm being joined by Dr. Babatunde Osotimehin, who is the Executive Director of the UN Population Fund. He took over in 2011. Before that, he served as the Minister of Health in Nigeria and was also the spokesman then for the PCMNCH. So he's been a long time important male advocate for reproductive health, for women's rights, and adolescent girls' rights as well. So I want to first thank you for all you've done. It's been fabulous having an African man speak out. And we're here in Africa, and I might just ask you to reflect a little bit. We heard from Graça Machel this morning. It's been 6 months since Nelson Mandela died. Madiba was an important inspiration for everyone in the world, but probably more so for an African man in Nigeria. Would you reflect on that?
Why did you say Nigeria? Let me start before I go to that question. I think, when people talk about an African man, there's a certain expectation that you have. But I will tell you what, I transformed from an African man to an honorary woman when I took this job. I'll tell you the story. I'll tell you the story. I was invited by all of the permanent representatives in New York who are female because they had the same anxieties to say, how could you ever put an African man to run UNFPA? I mean, it's like an antithesis. So when I got there, they asked me all the questions. Oh, so what do you know about childbirth? Oh, so how do you? So I think coolly, in a sense, because I'm a doctor, and I've seen these things, and I've taken deliveries in my life. So I gave them, step by step, what happens. And I've also looked after my own children. So when I finished, they clapped, and they said, one of them stood up and said, from today, you're an honorary woman. You're not a man anymore. So I think that just underscores the fact that for you to be able to do this job well, and for you to be an advocate in the way that we want it to happen, you have to be able to empathize, to have compassion, to understand what is going on the other side. And there's a lot going on. So much is going on that we need to stop. Women, girls, all over the world, particularly in this part of the world, have been so marginalized. And we need to stand up and say, enough is enough. And I commit myself to that. Now, you asked me about Madiba. Where do I start? I think for me, just following his story and just reading about him, and I met him personally, it's just awesome to know a man like that who brings to the world so many things that each one of us aspire to do but cannot do. Forgiveness, if that is the ability to be able to walk away from issues and see the positive in every person. For me, it's very strong. The second, of course, is the ability to see the world in a gender-neutral fashion. So women and men come to him as the same, and his love for children is something which is awesome. So I think that as an African and as a man, I aspire to be able to do some of those things which Madiba has done in terms of service to people, being able to work with people, seeing the best in people, and ensuring that you can get the system to serve humanity better than it has ever done.
That's a great answer. Thank you. Why don't we stay with young people for a minute? We have the largest cohort of young people entering their reproductive years right now in our history, and we certainly know that childbirth is the leading cause of death for young women. What should we be doing now to be thinking about ensuring that all girls have access to reproductive health and services and information? And what message would you give the world about thinking about these young people?
I think we should give figures because I think statistics actually does it much better. 7.2 billion people in the world, 1.8, 1.9 young people, most of 90% of them in the developing world, who face the challenges of education and health service access. And I think that's where we are. And I've just been listening to the Minister of Health of South Africa, where 8% of the pregnancies in this country occur in adolescents, but 36% of the maternal mortality, occurs in that age cohort. Now that tells you that there's a wastage there. And what we are doing, we're having children and actually sitting there and letting them die. Now, what can we do? Just the following things. We must equip every child, boy or girl, with comprehensive sexuality education. They must know about themselves. They must know who they are. Now, when they know about who they are and their vulnerabilities, they will avoid teen pregnancies. They will avoid HIV. They will avoid sexually transmitted infections. Three things. They also will grow up to their own agency, to become themselves confident and taking on the world. That's the first. The second is that we must also expose them to services. Services does not mean that all of them are going to run to take contraception. But they must know that if they need it, it is there. And we must provide that in youth-friendly spaces. The days when the midwife who is 60 sitting there and waiting to have clients come to have contraception will not do, because the young people will not go there. Because they would, when they get there, it is probably their aunt or somebody they know in their neighborhood, and they won't go there. But I've seen several models in the world, Colombia, in this country, Love Life, where young people can call in, they can counsel them, they can tell them, they can answer questions. And many times, many of them just want somebody with a listening ear, somebody who has compassion, somebody who would tell you, oh, don't worry, your period might be late by 2 days, but it doesn't matter that you might not be pregnant. You just wait another 2 or 3 days. And indeed, she's not pregnant. But if we don't set up those systems that enables them to do it and ensure that they can have the kind of compassion and access which they need, we would continue to have this excess birth. Now, the one technology that UNFPA and the Planned Parenthood Federation of America, we've just developed, and we're now trying to test it in Nigeria and Ecuador, is a technology which goes on the smartphone. We've written an app. That app contains the all of the information about sexuality education. Now, and you can download it free. Now, you can read all about it, but it's not alone. Just we haven't done that just alone. We've also linked it to like a GPS to tell you, if you want service, you can call this number. This is where you can get the service. And I think that would liberalize the space and ensure that young people can move around. And this is the most connected generation in the world. Now, we should not forget that these are not representative of all the young people. There are many young people who don't have smartphones, who don't have access to the information we're talking about. Now, we must ensure that we translate many of these into our local languages so that they can understand. listening to radio. In my time, when we started family planning, we had a campaign, billboards everywhere. People knew exactly what was going on. And then we had a community-based distribution system where they can go, they can talk to people, they can get it. So we can supplement what I've just talked about with the youth-friendly services. When it comes to rural settings, we can do youth-friendly, then community-based distribution systems.
Excellent. We have time for just one more quick question. So UNFPA has doubled its resources for family planning to meet the goals of the Family Planning 2020 initiative to get to 120 million more users by the year 2020. Where do those resources go and what can we expect to see?
Well, UNFPA is the largest provider of family planning in the public sector in the world. We have been doing so since 1969. And we have reached more people than any other agency has been able to do. Family Planning 2020 gave greater visibility to the work we do. And we responded by saying that 40% of the resources of UNFPA will go to family planning. And what we have done is to do the following in 69 countries. It's 69 poorest countries in the world. Make sure that we train people to provide service. Make sure that we have a distribution system, a robust supply chains management system that ensures we don't get stockouts. There's no point promising a service when you get stockouts every other week. And then we've also ensured that we have expanded the number of commodities, that is, the types of family planning for each woman to choose, because the basis of our work is the ability of the woman to make a choice, the right to make a choice, and without any coercion. And so that's working. We see that happening in Ethiopia. 38,000 health workers. We have been able to ensure that in each health point, there are at least 3 or 4 family planning commodities that people can choose from. And finally, I think it's important to say that this is collaborative with Gates Foundation, with USAID, with IBPF, and several other organizations. And because we're doing it now, and because the numbers have gone up so much, we're able to drive down the price. So volume guarantees have come, for instance, for implants, which used to cost us $20 thereabouts. Today we buy it for about $8 because we can guarantee that we would take so much more volume. And an implant would give you protection for almost up to 5 years. So $8 for protection for 5 years, it's not bad investment.
Well, please join me in thanking this honorary woman for all he's doing.